Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is the greatest speech in history? Question mark. Alexander the Great and the Opis Mutiny. This is done by the channel Epic History TV. This was just recommended to me, and since we're doing a lot of history reactions lately, and I've heard of Alexander the Great, but I don't know too much about him, I thought it would be a great way to get started. It says, Alexander the Great, I'll just read the first line. Alexander the Great is one of the most extraordinary individuals in history. He became king of the French Greek kingdom of Macedonia in 336 BC at the age of 20. And before his death 12 years later, he had imposed Macedonian overlordship on Greece, destroyed the mighty Persian Empire, and led an army deep into the modern Afghanistan and to the Indian frontier. Afghanistan. Like that nowadays we can't even imagine going to Afghanistan for more than for a single day. So that's a long distance, by the way. So let's see what it's all about. Okay. It's always very difficult, obviously, when it's something BC, 300 BC. I mean, that was over 2,300 years ago. Can't even imagine that someone has actually taken the time to document this. And even if they documented something in that time, it would have had been preserved the entire time as well. So keep that in mind. It had to have made its way through history and survived 2,300 years. Almost unimaginable.
What I'm about to say isn't meant to stop you returning home. As far as I care, you can go wherever you wish. But I want you to know how you have behaved towards me, and how I have treated you. I'll begin, as is right, with my father, Philip. When he found you, you were mere peasants, wearing hides, tending a few sheep on the mountain slopes, and you could barely defend them from your neighbors. Under him, you began living in cities.
Did you pay attention to how old he went? How old he was?
With others.
382 to 336. That means you got 46 years? God damn.
Under him, you began living in cities, with good laws and customs, and he turned you from slaves into rulers over those very barbarians who used to plunder your land. He conquered most of Thrace, taking the best harbors so there was trade and prosperity, and put the mines to steady work. The Thessalians, they used to terrify you. Well, we rule them now. The Athenians and Thebans, always looking for a chance to attack Macedonia, were so humbled, myself playing my small part in the war, that they no longer take tribute from Macedonia, but instead depend upon us for their protection. My father went to the Peloponnese and put their house in order. Then he was declared supreme commander of all the Greeks for the campaign against the Persians, an honor not just for himself, but for all Macedonians. This is what my father Philip did for you. Great enough on its own, but small compared to what you've gained from me.
Now I'm very curious to see what he has to provide to them, honestly. I mean, even if you pay attention to the map right there, just conquering all of this on foot, no cars, no planes whatsoever, must have taken a long time. And to me, it's always, now obviously they had way less people living on the earth back then. You still had to, conquering is one thing. You have to keep people there at all times to prevent an uprising, obviously. So controlling all of this at the same time wasn't as easy as you might think, even after they conquered it.
Is what my father Philip did for you. From me. I crossed the Hellespont, even though back then the Persians still commanded the sea. I defeated the satraps of the great King Darius, and made you rulers of Ionia, Aeolis, Phrygia, and Lydia, and took Miletus by siege. The rest of the land surrendered willingly, and their wealth became yours.
Wow.
All the riches of Egypt and Cyrene, which I won without a fight, are yours now. Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, Babylonia, all belong to you.
Wow.
The wealth of Lydia, the treasures of Persia, the jewels of India and the outer sea. You are now satraps. You are generals and captains.
What are satraps? If anyone can explain to me, let me know.
What have I held back for myself apart from this purple cloak and diadem? Nothing. No man can point to my riches, only the things I hold in trust for you all. And what would I do with them anyway? I eat what you eat. I get no more rest than you. Many times I have spent the night on watch so that you could sleep soundly. Who among you believes he's worked harder for me than I have for him? Come on! If you've got scars, strip and show them to me. I'll show you mine. There isn't one part of my body, the front at least, that doesn't bear a wound. My body's covered in scars from every weapon you can think of.
I wonder if he's actually said those exact words with, at least in the front, like made sure people know in the front, because if there were scars on his back, that would have obviously meant that he got hurt as he was running away.
Swords, arrows, stones, clubs. All for the sake of your lives, your glory, and your wealth. And yet here I still am, leading you, as conqueror of land and sea, rivers, mountains, and the plains. We've celebrated our weddings together. Many of your children will be cousins of my own. I've paid off your debts without asking how you got them, even though you're paid well enough and pillage every city we take. Many of you wear golden crowns, badges of courage and honor given you by me. Any one of us who was killed, who met a glorious end, we buried with full honors. Many now stand immortalized by bronze statues in Macedonia. Their families are honored and pay no taxes. Under my command, not one man has been killed fleeing the enemy. And now, I wanted to send back some of you who've been wounded or crippled, or have grown old, to be welcomed back home as heroes. But since you all wish to go, then all of you, go! Go home and tell them that your king, Alexander, conqueror of the Persians, Medes, Bactrians, and Scythians, who now rules over the Parthians, Chorasmians, and Hyrcanians as far as the Caspian Sea.
Look at this. Jesus, what do we have? So this would be modern... What would be Tunisia? Tunisia? Cyrene? Wouldn't it be there? Wouldn't be Tunisia there? Egypt, Palestine, and we go to Israel, Syria, parts of Iraq, Afghanistan. We got Turkey, we got Greece. I mean, there's so many countries combined into one empire. Jesus Christ, all on foot, by the way. Well, I mean, obviously they've taken ships as well, but ships could have only taken them so far. Jesus.
Who's marched over the mountains of the Hindu Kush, crossed the Oxus and Tanais rivers, even the Indus, first to cross it since Dionysus himself. I would have crossed the Hyphasis too if you hadn't cowered in fear. Who sailed into the great sea from the mouth of the Indus. Who crossed the desert of Gedrosia, where no one had ever led an army. Who took Carmenia, while my fleet sailed the Persian Gulf.
Carmenia?
When you get home, you tell them that when you made it back to Susa, you abandoned him and went home, leaving him under the protection of the foreigners you'd conquered. Perhaps this report of yours will seem glorious in the eyes of men and worthy in the eyes of the gods. Be gone!
Before I read this, can you just imagine being actually part of his army back then? I'm curious as to how big his army actually was, or how big his army was at the beginning and how big his army was at the end. Because I can imagine that even though he conquered certain lands, that there were people that started to support him as well, actually joined his army. And in case you know anything about how willing he was to recruit people from the conquered places, provide me with some intel. If you have it, I'd be more than appreciative.
Thank you to all the Patreon supporters who helped create this video.
Absolutely amazing channel, I'm not gonna lie. Let's look at the comments for a moment. What do they say? What do we have? A day may come when the knowledge of history falls, and when we forsake our swords and stop talking about Alexander, but it's not this day. I say he died at only 32. The gods were afraid that if he ruled until he was 50, he'd begin to march into Olympus and take that too. So they sowed disease ahead of time to kind of be sure, yeah. Teacher, students were gonna do, oh my god. Yeah, certainly a good video. I'm more than curious to find out more about Alexander the Great. Epic history, and they chose an interesting voice. They chose an interesting voice for the voiceover for him. Obviously now there's no way how you can find out what someone sounded like back then, but I mean, in what language would he actually speak back then? Would it be Greek? Would it be something else? I'm actually not sure. God, you know, I also want to do videos about ancient Egypt as well. We should probably do that. In case there are any events in history, like you want to do ancient Greece, you want to do Macedonia, want to be Greece back then. I mean, anything. Let me know and suggest me some videos. I mean, this channel is huge, Epic History, so they probably have a lot of good videos. Guys, in case you enjoyed, or if you joined, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's any other videos you would like me to react to, don't forget to put the name of the video down in the comment. And yeah, I'll go check it out. Other than that, take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.